G'day friends, Merry Christmas! Welcome to today's video. I'm going to be sketching 10 ornaments from my Christmas tree today. Now these are just random ornaments, ornaments that I wanted to try drawing. You can see I've taken some very badly lit photos of the ornaments on my iPad, just for reference. I wanted to try drawing things that I don't typically draw that often, so the little houses, automobiles, animals, those kinds of things. So I picked those and some other little extras that I really like from the Christmas tree, and I just want to sketch them out and give a bit of journaling time to them. I had such a little magical experience doing this because as I was sketching them, I mean, these aren't really sentimental. I do love these ornaments, but you know, they're not anything that speak to my existence as a human on this planet for the past 28 years. They're not, you know, stuff I was raised with. These are a bit more new ornaments. Some of them, you know, bought this year, and so I just kind of wanted to sketch them. But as I was doing it, they kind of reminded me of these little stories of, you know, Christmas stories that I have, or little Christmas memories that I have. And I think that was an interesting little process too, just to allow myself to be, you know, kind of inspired to journal about what these are making me think about. So I had a great time doing it. I got a few tips and tricks for you. I am very new to all of this, so please don't expect the tips to be great. I'll give you what I know is basically what I'm going to say. I'll tell you what I learned from myself during this experience, but had a great time doing it, and yeah, and today I'm just going to share that whole process with you. Also going to chat about some of my Christmas moments that I've been having. I don't know why I said it like that. They're not like moments that are typically Christmas. I mean, what I've been enjoying this Christmas season, which, by the way, I feel like has gone so quickly, and I don't want to sound like a broken record because I know I've said this before, but the last 6 months of every year in the States are so packed full of holidays that people want to celebrate, and as someone that used to love celebrating Christmas as early as September, it is an actual issue for me because I feel like I only get a few weeks of Christmas and it's not enough. It is seriously not enough, and I struggled with this last year. I've struggled with this again. I actually thought I got more on top of Halloween this year and planning all of that, perhaps because I was so stretched thin with Inktober and the end of Playtest Patreon. Maybe I was a little more aware of my scheduling. I think for this, I kind of knew that I had a lot of the content already pre-filmed, and by the time I'd looked at the schedule, I'd filled up the slots available till Christmas. So I kind of just thought, oh, all right, well, that's it. That's Christmas this year. Not that I'm unhappy with my efforts, but you know what I mean? Like, I wish there were just 3 more weeks of it or something. I want more. The Little Mermaid, I want more. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that before the whinging gets too out of hand. I do have to excuse myself if I cough or sniffle or anything. I have 100% done this to myself, but possibly am catching a cold. I want to come up with a great excuse for it, but at the risk of being accused a liar, I have literally just been wearing shorts out, and unapologetically as well. The top half of me is winter, the bottom half, summer. I don't know what my problem is. I want to pretend. I keep telling Steve, like, it's an Australian thing, we just don't really care. I know that's not true. I know a lot of Australians do care to rug up in the winter. I'm just trying to get away with it at this point. I don't know why. I have a theory, and it's because Steve likes to keep the house so closed and, like, warm. I feel like I'm on slow roast in here, and so I'm kind of dressed for summer in the house, and when I have to go and run an errand or be outside, like, I don't want to get redressed just to go out for a second, so I just think, oh, well, all I have to do is make it to the car, and then I have to make it into Target, so that'll be fine. But yeah, typically it is fine, but the other day I did that whole photo shoot day just wearing shorts, and maybe it wasn't the best idea. I'll say that in hindsight. But don't worry, I'm going to do everything I can in my power not to get sick. I think I'll be fine though, honestly. I've got a little bit of a sniffle and a cough. Anyway, oh, speaking of photo shoot, let's just chat about that for a second too. The other day, if you saw my Insta story, Steve and I went out with a couple of other photographers, gorgeous model and a gorgeous makeup artist, and did a photo shoot inspired by Mary Poppins. And specifically the new release, Mary Poppins Returns. This is another project that Steve's taken on just for himself and for the other photographers to kind of, you know, experience and enjoy. Sometimes, we've talked about this before. I mean, if you know anything about Steve, he works in entertainment, but he also is a photographer and loves to express himself creatively through photography. And he's been more getting into fashion editorials lately because it's a bit more of a full fantasy that I enjoy. Selfishly, I think he's just doing it because he knows that I enjoy it. But he's been learning a lot, and it's its own beast, fashion editorials, because you're starting to get a little bit abstract there, and the styling and all of that good stuff is a full, you know, big process and a big job to do. So he's been really challenging himself to do that, and this latest shoot, let me just tell you, and I think especially because there were 3 photographers there was Steve and 2 other girls, was so incredibly involved. But I've seen some of the images and they are just stunning. Like took my breath away. Stunning. I have never seen Steve do work like this before. I was so excited to have been involved in it, and I got a little styling credit. I think I got credited as a styling consultant, which was great. Honestly, I'll take anything at this point. But let's be real, I am the sounding board for everything. No, I'm not. Look, I was involved. I was having a great time. Everyone pitched in. Everyone had, you know, creativity that they wanted to add to the mix. And that's what I think is a really special thing about these photo shoots, because they are for play. I think a lot of people think, well, why would you do that? Why would you spend money on that? Or why would you, you know, why would you, you know, make that such a big thing? I think it is really important to invest in things like creativity. They're so fulfilling as people to feel creatively expressed. I mean, what price tag would you really put on that, I guess? And you know, I'm lucky because I can do that with a pen and some paper. But, you know, as a photographer, that's a little more involved. There are some certain things that, you know, Steve wants to do in order to feel that same expression. So it was a very involved process, and there was a lot of planning and work that went into it, but I think the results are just unbelievable. And I don't know when the blog post is coming out. He wants to take his time with it for a second, so I'll let you all know when it comes out. But I'm more excited as well because there were 2 other photographers there, so we're going to get to see 3 completely different perspectives on the exact same photo shoot, which I think is super fascinating. It's one of the things that I love about mixed media arts and crafts and putting tutorials out there, is when I see these really fresh, innovative takes on a tutorial that I've already put out there, or I see someone else's creativity shine through with perhaps, you know, a little process video that I've put up before, and, you know, I see what people take from inspiration and use to, you know, really take themselves there, and that is such a fascinating process to me, and I absolutely love diving into that. And I think for this, it's going to be really interesting to see the same thing, to see 3 different visions of exactly the same photo shoot, the same model, the same location, the same, you know, outfits, the same styling, everything. It was just 3 people taking photos at the same place, but they all had such a different take on it. Some people would, like, one of the photographers would get really low on the ground and take the photo from, you know, such a low angle, and it was so interesting to see that that's where she wanted to take it from. And then another, like Steve, would take it bang straight on from the front, and, you know, I can't wait. So I'll definitely share the link with you when that comes out. But it also kind of led into what I did yesterday, because we went to see Mary Poppins Returns, and I don't want to sit here and chat to you for 50 minutes about a movie review that I'm not qualified to give, but it was magical. Magical, magical, magical. I literally sat in that movie theater and felt like a child again, which isn't a stretch for me, but I had a great time watching it. The music in it was just so beautiful and so clever. Some of the lyrics were just so clever. And the dancing in it, Emily Blunt does an outstanding job. Like, an outstanding job. The costume design, Sandy Powell, it's so funny to me to picture Sandy Powell, because she's quite an intense woman. She looks like an intense woman. I don't really know her, but when I see, you know, photos or interviews of her, she just seems so intense. And to see that these are the costumes that she comes up with, it just seems like such a stark contrast to how I think of her in my head. And they're so whimsical and so fantastical and just so new. Like, it's so great. It's so great. I love it. If you like Mary Poppins, if you like Disney, if you like musical movies or musicals in general, I think you'll get a real kick out of it. It is such a, you know, it's just great. That's all I want to say on that, but it kind of tied into, you know, the photo shoot, and then I went to the movies. These are all the things that I've been doing over my Christmas, I guess. So I'm just letting you in on some of my my Christmas activities this year. Have been keeping up with my Hallmark movies, and I've been basically a lot of the time just falling asleep on the couch, because it gets dark at about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock now. like pitch black by 5 o'clock, which also made the photo shoot difficult because we lost light quite early. But it gets dark so quickly, the cats think it's dinner time, and I don't know, even my body starts to think, oh, it must be time to rest now, which in reality, like, I wouldn't stop working until, I mean, I never stop working, but but I would definitely not be hitting the couch at 5 p.m. And because I'm sitting on the couch, I'm looking at the beautiful Christmas lights, and there's this warm yellow glow in the living room. I'm passed out. Like, I am out like a light at 6 p.m. And that's been an actual problem. It's kind of knocked off my sleeping schedule. But I don't much care about my sleeping schedule as long as my work's done. So because I've been on top of my work and a little bit ahead, I've actually been a bit more lenient on myself around Christmas. I consider that my Christmas gift to myself, just relaxing a little bit and not being so, crazy. Giving myself a break from me. That's the greatest Christmas gift I could get this year. But yeah, that's it. That's how I've been. I'm going to give you a couple of tips that I have on sketching out these ornaments, and perhaps if you would like to do that yourself, or if you've been sketching, if you've been observational sketching or urban sketching, anything like that for a long period of time, and you have tips from me, please leave them down in the comments below, because like I said, this is kind of new to me. I have been exploring this urban sketching and kind of, sketching on location, pulling inspiration and letting it just, sight, sound, smell, touch, taste, all of that good stuff, just letting it influence how I create. But there's still something very different about sketching these 3D objects, and I do know a little bit about perspective, and I know a little bit about dimension and how to achieve that. I don't apply a lot of the rules as, I don't do as much as you should do if you really want to get the right result. I just use the basic principles that I understand and work off of that, which I find for the most part is good enough for what I want to achieve. But if you have any tips or tricks or even things that keep you motivated or inspired, or if you have like the perfect little palette to do this with, or a paintbrush that just works well for this kind of stuff, like, please let me know what your secrets to success are, because I would love to look at them as well. This is something that I do want to keep continuing, not on any kind of schedule or making videos about it per se, but I have been doing the Hobonichi. Well, it's a Phobonichi. I've been oh, there goes my phone, sorry. I've been faking it in another journal. Because I bought the 5-year Hobonichi, we talked about that. I've been pretending to draw my weeks in there, and that's been really good. But I've been using Copic markers, and it's a little structured, and it looks like really neat. I think I want to change it to more of this sketchy style, but it's all a work in progress, and it really doesn't mean much at the end of the day. All of that to say, I think it's good practice for me, because I do want to keep working on stuff like this, and inevitably anything that you do will come in handy one way or another in the future, even if it's just finding a color palette you like, or practicing your mixing or something. Like this, I didn't have the right red or green that I wanted to use, so I did mix those, which I was pretty proud of myself for doing. I mixed them from a bunch of reds already. Like, I really didn't make anything new here, but I was still proud of myself. It's still something I don't typically do. Layouts are also a good thing to practice. Anyway, my tips and tricks, I guess if you're getting started, these are the things I told myself to be able to enjoy the process and to get through it without, fussing too much, spending hours more than I needed to. I wanted to enjoy the process. I didn't want to labor over it, and that's an easy trap to fall into when you're trying something that you don't really have a lot of experience with, because it can feel a little intimidating. So what I started off with was a photo reference, because I actually find it easier to look at something that is flat than to look at the 3D object itself. When the 3D object itself is there, I find that, especially if the light source is moving, the shadows start to change place. And if I'm looking and even subconsciously taking in the shadows, I need them to stay in one place so I can get a better feel for that. And even if the light source is changing, the colors might change depending on what light's hitting it. A yellow light from my Christmas tree might make it look very different to daylight from the window hitting it. So keep that in mind too. I think anything with, I think an image for reference is probably a little easier for most people to draw from than an actual 3D object itself, because you even have to take into account that as you are moving as well, your perspective is going to change on that object. So, the horizontal line you're looking at now, if you even sit up a little bit straighter, suddenly might not be that same line. and it might not be on the same plane anymore. It can just be a lot more difficult. So my first tip would be to take a photo of it, even if you're sitting at the place and you still want to look at it. I would still recommend just taking a photo of it in case you struggle with any parts, and then you'd be able to look at the photo and give yourself a little bit more direction. I noticed this typically with urban sketching when I've been outside before and I've been relying on a lot of shadows and the sun moved and I was completely confused. So it's something you might not think about, but I know that that is something that I've struggled with. So definitely take a photo if that's going to help you and you maybe are going to work a little slower. I think as well, don't go in with expectations that don't match the necessity. I don't know how to say this properly. When you're practicing, there's actually no need for you to achieve any kind of anything. Do you know what I mean? The idea to practice is just to practice. So if you've done it, you've done it. And I think a lot of people go into practicing thinking, well, I have to have ended up with something for it to be worthwhile practice, which is not the case at all. Sometimes you can actually end up with something terrible, but it will still teach you something about what you know you don't want to do next time. So I think practicing for practice sake is never done in vain, but I would manage the expectation that you have and just try to eliminate any part of you that wants to achieve something specific. Because I think that's where we start to overcorrect ourselves and, you know, beat ourselves up if we don't actually reach that final point. So managing your expectations a little bit, I think, is a good thing. Obviously, please do you. If you want to achieve something out of it, I'm not going to say no. When I went into this, I did want to achieve like a nice journal spread. I did think that, but I also knew it didn't have to be in perspective. The 3D really didn't have to pop the way that it should have. I think that's another tip I would mention, is that when you are drawing it, don't overcorrect yourself a lot. If you want to go straight in with pen, let the lines just sit there. If you've got a few lines that are wonky, if you've got a house that looks like it's falling off the edge of the earth, like, it's completely fine. I think that's, you know, there's also a charm to that as well. So I would encourage you to do that. And then I think as far as these really loose, sketchy kind of illustrations go, typically I would tell you to contrast the loose sketching with maybe a more structured coloring. But I think for this, it's more loose sketching, loose coloring. Just let the essence of what you're trying to draw come through. If you've achieved it, try not to take yourself any further than that. There was a temptation for me to crack out the pencils and start to put a lot of shading in this stuff, like really deepen up some shadows and pop some highlights in. At the end of the day, I felt like it actually didn't need it. I got my point across at this point, and I didn't need to take it any further than that. I might change my mind eventually. Maybe I want to get a certain look, and I'll have to work on that. But I think for this is exactly what I wanted to achieve. So hopefully those tips are helpful to you if you are getting into it. I know there wasn't anything specifically illustration related. It's more the mind frame you want to set yourself up with. But I think specifically taking a photo of it is very, very helpful. And I think it's something that I needed to learn quite quickly for me to have success. The rest of this are all little stories that I thought of as I was drawing them. The little house reminds me of The Family Stone. Love that movie. The plane reminds me of my stepdad, David. He has a plane. It's a thing. I don't like going in it, but he has a plane. The little letters to Santa down there just reminded me of the letters to Santa I would write when I was a kid, and possibly what I would write this year that I wanted from Santa. Truth be told, the Rudolph, the reindeer ornament, didn't have a story about that at all. I just wanted to draw it because it was graphic and I thought it looked really cute. The little French geese down there, you guys know I love my fake French. J'adore my fake French. So that made me laugh. Mum's angel. This isn't Mum's angel, but she has these little angels at home. Makes me laugh every year. They're super sentimental. She loses them every year. It's like a tradition for her to ask where they've gone and go into a panic. I don't know why she doesn't put them where she can find them. The candle in that thing just made me laugh. The SNL skit, Christmas Candle. If you haven't seen it, Google it. You'll thank me later. A Christmas tree. I just love our Christmas tree. The truck reminded me that we got our Christmas tree from Home Depot. It actually came with pine cones on it, and the tree already with lights, so it's super easy. The house down there reminded me of White Christmas and Vermont, and the other the other French goose, the little lady French goose, just reminded me that I love being the ultramost plus. That's what I'm most thankful for this year. Taking extra to a whole new level. No, I had a great time doing this. I really love it. I put some glitter glue on the end because I couldn't help myself. The glitter glue was there and I needed it. I hope you're having a fantastic Christmas season. I will be back again for a couple more 12 daisies of Christmas. Until then, please stay merry. Bye.